What happens when a lawyer with excessive empathy defends a ruthless and emotionless female villain? A bizarre combination where one cries for others, while the other is ready to stab people without hesitation in front of the public. Don't expect a tearful love story, because this is the beginning of a fiery alliance, the most shocking psychological manipulation in South Korea. Everything started with the legend of the prison demon 10 years ago, on the very first day of his imprisonment. When the prison guard made a sarcastic remark, he only responded with a chilling silence. Above, he turned away, but below, his cold hands broke the chopsticks in half. In an instant, while the jailer was still laughing mockingly, Doom rushed forward like a ghost and decisively plunged the chopstick into his neck, staining the floor red. From that moment, the name Doom became a haunting, a monster that made the entire prison hold its breath whenever she passed by. She received a 15-year sentence for the heinous crime of murdering her parents and burning down her own house. But 10 years later, time had coated Doom with a perfect facade. She transformed with an angelic appearance and an unusually elegant demeanor. One morning, while Doom was reading, a newly emerged gang leader threw her book to intimidate her. Doom remained calm, merely giving a slight warning glance. But the other woman didn't know she had just stirred up a hornet's nest. Night fell, and the entire cell was drunk. A stream of cold liquid trickled down her face, jolting the gang leader awake. In the darkness, she was horrified to realize that Doom was holding a sharp glass tube to her eyeball. Doom whispered in a manipulative voice that if she trembled even slightly, this thing would take away her sight forever. At this moment, the boss's authority vanished, leaving only utter fear creeping into her bones. She begged for her life and promised to take on all the laundry chores as punishment. Doom calmly threw away the weapon, but from that night on, the aggressor officially knew what a real-life nightmare was like. A few days later, Do's case from 10 years ago unexpectedly reappeared in the news. It turned out that the real killer who murdered the Lai couple all those years ago was someone else, not their only daughter. The perpetrator's name is Trung Zich, and he was arrested for another gun robbery. At the police station, Trung Zich admitted that he was the one who committed the brutal act that year. This shocking news caught the attention of lawyer Muang. He is known as one of the most talented lawyers with a 99% win rate, but ironically, he suffers from hypersympathetic disorder. This condition makes Muhang very susceptible to deep empathy for the underprivileged, and he has to seek regular treatment from a psychologist. The image of the 18-year-old girl who was wrongly accused and unjustly imprisoned for 10 long years keeps Muhang awake for many nights. He pondered how many 10-year periods a person could have in a lifetime to squander like that. Determined to uncover the truth, Muang took on the case from the police chief and became Trung Zich's defense lawyer in order to approach the culprit. Not long after, Muang went to the prison to conduct the interrogation. Trung Zich was extremely excited to see that his defense lawyer was a renowned figure. He brazenly expressed his wish that Muang could help him reduce his sentence to 10 years in prison. When the lawyer asked about the motive for the murder, the murderer Kyo King replied that he only wanted to kill for fun and didn't need any reason. After carefully reading the confession, Muang became even more enraged when he discovered that Trung Zich, after firing the gun, heartlessly set fire to the house to destroy the evidence. He pressed him, asking why he forced an innocent little girl to burn her parents' bodies herself. Muang's questions focused on the cruelty of the case, but the criminal's indifferent attitude finally caused him to explode with anger. The next day, Muang met with the prosecutor in charge of the case to request the death penalty for Trung Zich. However, the prosecutor replied that he could only follow the law and could not interfere too deeply. Realizing he could not rely on the rigid legal system, Muang decided to handle it his own way. He secretly recorded the inhumane conversation with Trung Zich and uploaded it to social media. The cruelty and unrepentant attitude of the heartless man immediately caused outrage throughout South Korea. Under tremendous public pressure, the court was forced to sentence Trung Zich to life imprisonment in a cell. When watched the news, she couldn't help but smirk in admiration, thinking that this lawyer was indeed an interesting madman. Afterwards, the court declared him innocent and she was immediately released. However, due to her previous act of seriously injuring the prison guard, she still had to serve her sentence, but it was reduced from 3 years to 2 years. On the day Do was released from prison, Muang, fearing she wouldn't have decent clothes to wear, specially prepared a new outfit for her. After returning to her free life, Do went to a law firm and asked Muang to become her representative lawyer to help her claim compensation for wrongful imprisonment. During their first meeting at the cafe, Muang thoughtfully ordered 3 different drinks that girls usually like, as he wasn't sure what the tastes of female students these days were like. This thoughtful gesture seemed to touch Do Umum's icy heart, moving her to tears. She tearfully shared that her name was Do, a victim of wrongful imprisonment and abuse for 10 years. Throughout that long period, She had to live in extreme coldness and loneliness. But today, as Mu Wai turned his back to get tissues, he accidentally discovered a shocking truth. Du turned out to be a talented actress. While her face was still streaming with tears, making others feel sorry for her, her feet were tapping triumphantly. That scene reminded Mu Wai of the psychologist's warning. Because he suffered from excessive empathy, he must stay away from those who exploit the compassion of others for their own gain. People like Du are his natural enemies, and is easily becoming easy prey for them to manipulate. Although he realized was likely using him, to avoid alerting her, Muang decided not to expose her on the spot. Back home, Muang began secretly researching his client's file more thoroughly. First, he went to Doom's relatives, and they told him that she suffered from antisocial personality disorder and extreme violence. They recounted how, on her very first day in prison, she had severely injured a prison guard. Next, Muang met the former prison guard. This guard revealed to him that he had once used a sharpened straw to threaten the cell leader, making her so frightened that she could only stare blankly while sleeping. The jailer also emphasized that because you possessed an extremely high IQ and had a history of setting fires many times before going to prison, the police never found any evidence. He even believed that Yu was the real culprit who murdered her parents. These conflicting pieces of information left Ma completely confused about the young girl's true identity. Because Am was under probation, she was required to periodically report her whereabouts to the relevant department. Her supervisor was Johan, a man with a scruffy appearance but sharp wit. Every night before 8 o'clock, Du had to report her location to him. Having just been released from prison and penniless, Du decided to undertake a daring challenge, earning 150 billion on the very first day. The plan began when she entered a used designer handbag store. Diem Nian presented a cleverly forged police identification card and announced that a group of thieves were dealing in stolen goods nearby. She asked the store owner to allow her to take some handbags to the station for investigation using a similar tactic. She successfully tricked a suitcase full of expensive clothes and jewelry from other shops. After putting on her luxurious outfit, she confidently strode into the first floor of a large casino. She skillfully used a few tricks and psychological tactics to win the trust of a wealthy young couple. She was a genius with a phenomenal memory from a young age. Only needed to glance at that day's newspaper once to memorize the entire content. The couple were skeptical, so they tested her with a few difficult questions, but answered fluently without a single mistake. She claimed that thanks to her extraordinary memory, she had once won $50 million at casinos in America. Believing her, the couple asked her to use her ability to help them place bets with a 50-50 split agreement. Quickly getting into the game, she combined her super memory with her incredible statistical probability calculation abilities to win repeatedly. Soon she had won 100 million chips, making the casino owner restless. The casino suspected her of cheating, but after thoroughly checking the cameras and equipment, they had to helplessly admit there was no evidence. Finally, they let Song Chu, this god of gambling, go. The casino had to give her 150 billion in cash and put her on the blacklist, banning her permanently. After getting the money, Du cleverly hired a shipper to impersonate a police officer to return all the clothes. The handbags and jewelry were tricked back to the shop owners, completing a perfect, flawless fire-digging circle. When Duam arrived back at her residence, Supervisor Johan had been waiting for her for hours. He pressed her about where she had been and what she had done that day. Duam only vaguely replied that she had run some errands, raising suspicions. Johan asked her to open the handbag she was carrying to check it. Seeing that Johan hesitated for so long before opening the bag, he rushed forward and snatched it. At that moment, Muang suddenly appeared from behind and loudly warned Johan that he was invading his client's privacy. As a lawyer, he demanded that Johan return the bag and reveal Muang's identity. Johan reluctantly returned the bag and left dejectedly. However, as soon as Johan disappeared from sight, it was Muang who directly opened Du's bag to check. He looked at her with eyes full of suspicion, wondering where a girl who had just served 10 years in prison and had only been free for 2 days could have such a huge amount of cash. Seeing that the truth had been revealed, Du no longer bothered to pretend to be innocent. She frankly declared that the money was earned legally. For some reason, Muang chose to trust her and didn't question her further. Back home, Muang reviewed Doom's case file from 10 years ago. The file clearly stated that Du had shot and killed her parents and then set fire to the house to destroy the evidence. The police arrested her right next to the pile of ashes along with the remaining body parts of the victim. However, strangely, although they found a bullet in the body, the police could not find the murder weapon. Furthermore, because Arm was once the champion of the national intellectual competition for teenagers, the case that year attracted a lot of public attention. The most significant point is that in the completely burned down house there were absolutely no traces of Duam's life. It's as if she never lived with her parents. In addition, the motive for murder in the verdict was also concluded to be very vague. Although the case was full of questionable points, under pressure from public opinion wanting to find a scapegoat, the court hastily handed down a verdict. Even more puzzling was that Am, with his superior IQ, remained completely silent and did not utter a single word in his own defense. The next day, investigator Zhu revealed important information to Muang. Since Zhong Chix went to prison, a mysterious sum of money has been deposited into his account every month. This proves that Zhong Chix is taking the blame for someone else or that he still has accomplices outside. Of course, Mu Yang doesn't rule out the possibility that he's taking the blame for himself. He asks Doan about the identity of the real culprit, but she remains resolutely silent. In another development, Johan continues diligently monitoring Du every day. Because felt he was too troublesome, he called his henchmen to use technological methods to monitor Johan in return. Although he had just been released from prison, he seemed to already have a network of loyal henchmen and a mysterious organization behind him providing support. A young hacker named Jia Deng quickly sent a fake link to Johan's phone as soon as he carelessly clicked on it. Spyware was installed, and from then on, every move of the supervising officer was under Doom's watchful eye. Not stopping there, Du also sent a boy named Jingo to collect evidence of Johan's crimes. Jingo photographed Johan secretly cooperating with and covering up for thieves in exchange for a share of the money. Having the upper hand, Du went directly to Johan and used the stack of photographic evidence to threaten him, forcing him to stop closely monitoring her from now on. Meanwhile, Muang, through prosecutor Ayu's account, learned the reason Wyam showed no signs of activity at her parents' house. It turns out she's a boarding student at JM Academy, an educational institution built by a mysterious conglomerate to recruit and train high IQ children from across South Korea. The conglomerate covers all living expenses and talent development costs. However, when Mu Yang searched online, she couldn't find any information about the job. His intuition told him that behind this name, there was definitely some dark secret hidden related to his parents' death. He arranged to meet her and earnestly begged her to tell the truth so he could do everything he could to help. However, his sincerity was met only with cold silence from Umum. Unable to extract anything from his client, Muang turned his attention to Trung Zich. He went to prison and bluntly asked him who sent the winnings and who the real mastermind was. Having been betrayed before, he was naturally highly vigilant and not easily fooled. But Mu Hang was well prepared. He used psychological tactics, saying he was helping to collect compensation for the Oni amounting to 3 trillion. Once the ONS case is established and the compensation is dispersed, the murder case file will be permanently closed and cannot be reopened. Then his accomplices outside will have no reason to continue sending him money, and his exorbitant interest debts will make his family's lives miserable. The only way to salvage the situation is for Trung Zich to reveal the name of his accomplices to have a chance of getting a reduced sentence. Mu Hang's sharp words caused the criminal to become confused and waver. But then he suddenly changed his attitude, giving a smug smile and telling him that the kid would eventually come to rip anyway. As soon as the warning ended, Du, disguised as a successful businesswoman in the financial field, appeared at the gate of a high-end nursing home. She introduced herself as the director's personal investment advisor, causing the receptionist to readily provide her access card without suspicion. After getting inside, Du quickly sneaked into the changing room and put on a nurse's uniform. She created a small commotion by ringing the alarm in a random ward to attract the attention of the medical staff. Taking advantage of the situation, she sneaked into the pharmacy and stole the dangerous poison bottles. At this time, Muang called reporter Yankee to ask about the identity of JobMock's director. The reporter said that the former director, K.I., is currently bedridden in a nursing home due to health problems. Realizing the dangerous coincidence, Muang immediately called but she had turned off her phone. He sent her picture to the nursing home manager and received confirmation that she was there. When Muang rushed to the nursing home, the alarm was already blaring. He hurried upstairs and burst into Kia Ho's room. At this moment, Duom had removed the old man's oxygen mask and was holding a syringe containing poison, preparing to end the life of her enemy. Mu Yang shouted, urging her to stop and not to commit a crime. Duom coldly replied, telling him not to meddle in other people's affairs, and then prepared to inject the poison directly into the foredrip. In that critical moment, Muir rushed forward and wrestled her to the floor to stop the murder. He pressed her, asking if Ki and Trung Zich had conspired to kill her parents. Duom remained silent, but her eyes shone with deep hatred. She wondered what she had gone through in that hellish JC to become a demon who constantly harbored murderous intentions like she did today. She bitterly told Mwenga that she was always like that, not that fate had transformed her. The next day was the trial for the state's compensation claim, and she thought victory was certain. But she couldn't have imagined that Mu-hang would unilaterally request the court to postpone the verdict without consulting her. The reason he gave was that suspect Trung Zich was appealing the verdict, so it couldn't be 100% confirmed that he was wrongly convicted. He argued that it was necessary to wait until the real culprit was identified before requesting compensation. This sudden proposal stunned the entire courtroom. Du looked at his lawyer with eyes full of anger and suspicion. She believes Muang is deliberately taking revenge for her refusal to reveal the truth. Immediately after the trial, Du angrily announced the cancellation of her cooperation with Muang. The reason Yang cared so much about Du's case was partly due to her excessive empathy, and partly because of a special connection between the two from the past. 20 years ago, when Doom participated in the children's intellectual competition, Muang was the boy in the audience sitting below. At that time, due to the pressure of expectations, little Doom panicked and hid in a closed room. While everyone was frantically searching, it was Muang who found her. Thanks to the warm encouragement of the stranger boy, Du regained her courage to return to the stage and win first prize. 20 years later, Muang recognized the girl from back then, but was completely unaware that the boy who had given her strength was standing right in front of her. The next day, in her locker at the supermarket, Du received a mysterious gift box. Inside were photos of the crime scene involving her parents years ago, stirring up pain that never faded. At the same time, a woman named Seo came to the law office. Due to difficult circumstances and limited resources, she had to send her 18-year-old son, Mi-hun, to live with a close friend. Unexpectedly, just a year later, her healthy son suddenly passed away. Ms. Seo was heartbroken and unable to accept the truth, and after investigating, she discovered that her close friends, Boza and his wife, had bought 20 life insurance policies for her son in just one short year. She suspected her son had been murdered for insurance fraud and was determined to uncover the truth. However, Boza and his wife sued her in court for defamation. After hearing the heartbreaking story, Muang decided to help this poor mother. When Duam returned to her dilapidated apartment, she discovered that the building's water pipes had burst, turning her room into a waterlogged fish tank. With nowhere else to go, she shamelessly sought refuge at Muang's house. The kind lawyer reluctantly let her stay. Here, Du happened to see Muang investigating the case of the boy Mi-hun, and she shrewdly asked if any of Boza's relatives worked in insurance sales. When Muang confirmed that Boza's sister was an insurance agent, Du immediately asserted with certainty that this was a murder to steal insurance money. Mu Wai sighed and said that both the insurance company and the police had concluded it was an unintentional accident. Seeing the villain brazenly profiting, Duam smirked and told him that following the usual lawyer methods wouldn't do any good. The next day, as Mu Yang was preparing to meet Mrs. Seo, Duam stopped him and advised him to abandon the useless conventional methods. She said that not everything could be solved through the law. Sometimes, using unconventional methods could be much more effective. To a lawyer who always revered the law like Mu, Du's words were nothing short of the thinking of a madwoman and dangerous. Perhaps it was Mu's high sense of responsibility and dedication that moved Du somewhat. She decided to use her own way to help him solve that difficult insurance case. Duam approached his subordinate Jia Deng and asked her to create a completely new identity for him. This time, Duam disguised herself as a renowned psychology doctor who had just returned from America. With that perfect cover, she went to the kindergarten where Mrs. Boa's son used to attend to share her knowledge. There, she approached Boa and whispered sweet words into her ear, claiming that her son showed signs of being an exceptional genius. With proper guidance and special educational methods, the child's future will surely be bright. Boa, upon hearing this, felt like a drowning person grasping at a lifeline and immediately invited the doctor to her home to seek advice on how to nurture her child. Understanding Boa's desire for her child to be successful, Doom painted a bright picture that the child needed to attend advanced tutoring classes to unlock their potential. She even fabricated a story about knowing a top genius training expert in America and being able to introduce them to the family. However, the tuition fee for this course was nearly 500 million, a huge sum that almost made Boa and her husband faint from shock. But greed and blindness led them to decide to give Doom 430 million W, exactly the amount of insurance money they had just received from the death of their unfortunate son. Besides swindling money, Duam also cleverly discovered that Bo's eldest daughter had a habit of secretly recording everything in the house with her phone. When Muang returned home and saw Umam calmly sitting on a pile of 430 million in cash, he was astonished. He bluntly asked her what she was doing and where the money came from. Duam calmly replied that this was the total insurance money for the death of the boy Mi-hun. Being a law-abiding person, Mu Wai advised her to quickly return the money before the Bo couple reported it to the police. However, Duam firmly asserted that they would never dare utter a word to the authorities. After saying that, She threw the phone containing evidence of her husband Bo's crimes to Muang. Du-eum gave Muang a week to think it over. If he chose to keep the money, she would let him keep the evidence to expose the crimes. But if he insisted on returning the money, she would give the evidence to that despicable husband to destroy. Mu-yang anxiously wondered why she had to resort to illegal methods to solve the problem. Du-eum coldly replied that this was her usual way of working and also the most effective way to handle things in this world full of injustice. The story then shifts to Jingo, the gangster boss Kim Sampa, who brought his henchmen to settle accounts with him. Previously, Jingo had introduced Kim Sampa to a group of students who needed loans. Unexpectedly, after receiving the money, these students disappeared without a trace, causing Kim Sampa to lose 150 billion. He suspected Jingo had colluded with those students to trick him, so without saying a word, he brutally attacked him. In that moment of danger, Jingo managed to activate his watch to send a distress signal to Jia Dung, but then quickly fainted from the pain. Kim Sampa thought he was dead, so he rushed away. When Jia Dung arrived, she only had time to take him to the emergency room. She informed Du about the situation, but when he heard that Jingo was involved with the gangsters, Du was indifferent and didn't want to care. However, that evening when Jia Dung brought food to the hospital, she discovered the hospital bed was empty. The GPS watch lying next to Jingo had been stolen by Kim Sampa. In this urgent situation, Jia Dung went to Mu Yang hoping he could help report it to the police. There, she was surprised to find also at the lawyer's house. Jia Dung recounted the entire incident about Jingo and the loan sharks. Du-eum analyzed that Mu Yang would not be able to help in this case, because Jingo himself had committed a crime. Even if the police caught the loan sharks, Jingo would hardly escape imprisonment. In the end, everything still depended on Yeom's plan to rescue Jingo without alerting the police. There was only one way: to capture the runaway students and hand them over to the crime boss Kim Sampa to deal with and return the lost money. Yeom quickly tracked down information and the location of the fire-digging students. Du-eum immediately dispatched two of his trusted henchmen to capture the two who had run away with the money. However, just as Du was about to hand them over to Kim Sampa, Muang called Jia Dung and informed him that he had reported it to the police. He insisted that Du-eum hand the two students over to the authorities, because if they fell into the hands of gangsters, their lives would certainly not be safe. Faced with Muang's determination, Du-eum had to change his plan. She called Mr. Chung Kim, falsely claiming to be a police investigator, and informed him that she had apprehended the fire-digging group and recovered all the money. She promised to return the money to him, making Kim Sampa overjoyed. Du-eum cleverly inquired whether Jingo was being held at his place. She used the excuse that she needed to bring the suspect to the police station for questioning before she could complete the money repayment procedure. Believing him, he hastily provided the address. Du immediately sent people disguised as police officers to safely rescue Jingo. After the hostage was freed, Du began a spectacular fire-digging act to punish the greedy man. She asked Mr. Kim to send his personal information and bank account details, then instructed Jia Dung to send a fake message notifying him that the money had been deposited into his account. While Mr. Kim was happily looking at the message, he received a notification that all the money had been withdrawn. At this point, Du impersonated a bank employee and called to warn him that his account showed signs of being illegally accessed. She manipulated his psychology by asking about the female police officer's call earlier and claiming it was a call of extreme panic. Mr. Kim obediently followed the bank employee's instructions, transferring the remaining 60 billion in his account to a secure police account for safekeeping, which was actually the Doom Group's account. To conclude the charade, Du, using her police identity, called back, informing him that she had transferred 16 million and telling him to check. Mr. Kim was stunned, shouting that the bank had accused her of being a fire-digging scammer. Du-eum laughed sarcastically, saying that there's no such thing as a fire-digging scammer transferring money back to the victim. At this moment, the gangster boss was shocked to realize that the call from the bank earlier was actually a trap. Seeing the 60 billion won disappear without a trace, he collapsed, crying like a child whose candy had been stolen. Solved the problem, he even made a large sum of money. Du-eum decided to share this money with the victims who had been harmed earlier. This action made Ma begin to see her in a different light. Finally, he decided to open the phone she had given him. Inside was a horrific video recording the entire process of Myung-hun being murdered. It turned out that during that field trip, the stepfather knew Myung-hun couldn't swim but still deliberately took him to deep water. When the boy struggled and cried for help, the whole family coldly stood and watched him sink to the bottom of the water. Even the older sister just stood there filming without intervening. Witnessing such cruel and inhumane acts, Muang couldn't remain calm. He handed the video evidence to reporter Yani Ki to expose the truth on national television. The poor mother was finally cleared of all charges. Through this incident, Muang Chua realized that he was right. There are too many injustices in this world that mainstream law cannot touch. The power of a lone lawyer on the path to defending justice is too small. Therefore, Muang made a bold decision. He asked to join Dao's fire digging team. Initially, Du refused, saying that his IQ and personality were not suitable for fire digging. But Muang convinced her with sharp reasoning. If one day the whole group gets caught, he is the one who knows the entire crime process from beginning to end, so he will be the best defense attorney for them. Finally, Muang officially became a part of the group through Jingo. Muang learned the secret about the past of the whole group. Jingo Dung and Nakaha were both children from Job Mock Academy. Growing up together in that harsh environment, was the best, followed by Gung, third was Naka, and fourth was Jingo. After going to prison, Naka opened a car repair shop as a secret base. In fact, Job Mock was not a school but a training center for criminals and professional assassins. Besides academic knowledge, the children are trained in special skills such as weapon making, hacking, or fire digging with the aim of turning them into profit-making tools for the corporation. A few days later, Duam received news that Kehoe, the former director of JORM, had passed away due to illness. She personally attended the funeral. Here, his secretary handed her a bag of documents, saying it was his final act of atonement. Inside were personal information of several important figures, including the name Jonggu. Immediately convened an emergency meeting in the secret basement under the car repair shop. The target this time is Jonggu, the owner of a waste treatment plant who is addicted to gambling and has a long criminal record for assaulting employees. Because he likes gambling, he planned to set up a fake card game right in the car repair shop to steal all of his assets. She asked Muang to use the 430 million world insurance money as capital for gambling, and to participate in the game so she could find his weaknesses and prevent betrayal. The plan went smoothly. Jia Dung created a facade of a successful businessman, while Jingo played the role of a driver taking her to Jonggu's factory to discuss business. Knowing he was lustful, Jia Dung deliberately dressed provocatively to attract his attention. She pretended to receive a phone call from a friend, revealing information about a secret and alluring casino. Taking the bait, Jonggu immediately insisted on going along. For the first few weeks, Naka took him to the casino and let him lose heavily. Then Duam instructed them to temporarily suspend contact for a week to stimulate the victim's gambling addiction, preparing for the final blow at the car repair shop. Meanwhile, Muang received an unexpected offer of cooperation from Trung Zich in the cupboard. Because Kehoe had died, the source of financial support was cut off. Trung Zich's family was being terrorized by loan sharks. Desperate, he agreed to reveal the truth about the old case in exchange for legal assistance. Trung Zich admitted that he and Ki were the ones who directly murdered parents. But there was a third person at the scene that night, and they all acted on the instructions of a mysterious figure called the chairman. Even on the night of murder, this chairman called to mock her about the outcome she had chosen. However, Trung Zich had never seen the chairman's face. The decisive night at the fake casino in the auto repair shop has arrived. Naka is upstairs acting as a lookout while Du sees through the cards and signals to his accomplices through his earpiece. The goal is to win all of Jonggu's money. However, as the game gets intense, Naka frantically reports that the police are coming, music, because calmly tells Muang to go check the situation. As soon as he leaves, she immediately locks the emergency exit door and leaves Muang and Naka behind. It turns out this was a double trap set by She had secretly made an agreement with Jonggu's wife. She wanted to send her husband to prison to escape her hellish marriage, and would get the money. At the same time, she also wanted to take this opportunity to eliminate Muang, whom she considered a risk factor, and punish Naka for embezzling money from the organization. However, Muang cleverly handled the critical situation. He told Naka to cut off the main power supply, leaving only the power in the basement, then hid the communication headset in an empty soda can. When the police raided the place, Muang calmly picked up the money on the table and declared himself Naka's lawyer. He questioned the police about the search warrant and the reason for the illegal entry into the residence. When the police insisted they had received a tip about a casino, Muang cleverly diverted their attention to another location, which was the illegal casino that Naha had previously taken Jonggu to. The police believed the story and withdrew, saving the group from certain death. Inside the fake casino, the drama continued. A mysterious figure wearing a mask and baseball cap appeared, challenging Zhong Ji-yu to a duel. This person quickly won all 500 million gold in cash from him. When Jonggu, in a fit of rage, ripped off the man's mask, he was astonished to realize it was a famous actor who had been involved in a gambling scandal, someone Muang had defended and helped get out of trouble. This was the secret weapon Muang had planted, unexpected by Du. The next morning, Muang met with Du to ask why she had set him up. This time, Du didn't deny it but honestly admitted that she wanted to remove him from the game so he wouldn't get more deeply involved. But at that moment, the police arrived and arrested Duam on suspicion of her involvement in Trungzich's death. At the prison, at 2 a.m., Trungzich was stabbed to death on the spot by a fellow inmate using a sharpened toothbrush. The culprit confessed that he received orders from Du. However, through Jia Deng's investigation, the real killer was Hong Trang KY, a former driver of Che Hong and an assassin for the JM Group. Jia Deng revealed another shocking secret. Che Hong, the former director of JM Group, was not murdered for self-doubt but because he held the secret about the chairman's true identity. Muang, as a lawyer, visited him in prison. She secretly wrote a note and asked him to deliver it to Jingo. The request is to retrieve the old tank gun that Naka made and had his name engraved on to set a revenge trap. This gun is currently in the police scrapyard awaiting destruction. Jingo's group broke into the waste treatment plant and retrieved the gun. However, Muang, fearing that would do something reckless in revenge, secretly hid the gun instead of following the plan. After being released due to lack of evidence, Duam officially accepts Muang as a teammate and shares the ultimate goal, completely destroying the Jok Mok group. The first target is the powerful woman Kung Ra. Duam recounts the story from 10 years ago. At that time, Che Hong, terrified, sought her out, although she fled to Singapore because he accidentally learned the identity of the chairman and recorded it in a red notebook. He knew he was about to be silenced, but his wife, Kyung, was having an affair with a student of Jok Mok named Jae, so she didn't want to go with her husband. Knowing that going with her would be a death sentence, she proactively called Kyung. She proposed a deal. She would exchange the land deed for her freedom, and her mother wouldn't have to flee. As a result, Kyung murdered her husband, staged the scene as a self-inflicted wound, and kept the land deed as a talisman. It was also because of this deed that the chairman ordered the murder of Duam's parents as a warning to her. Currently, music, that red-cover diary is being secretly hidden in the safe deposit box at Kiarung's hotel. Duam is gathering the whole group to plan to steal it. Jigo, thanks to his fluency in 5 foreign languages, easily got a job as a receptionist at the hotel to work as an insider. He has information that Kunga will open the safe deposit box next week. That will be a golden opportunity for them to create a problem. Break into the box and steal Jok Mok's darkest secret. Duam will disguise himself as an environmental supervisor under the pretext of checking hygiene issues to access the restricted area. After thoroughly inspecting the building structure, the group discovered a fatal flaw, a ventilation shaft connecting the secret basement to the underground garage. Seizing this golden opportunity, and with Am's request for the hotel to immediately implement emergency pest control measures, Naka disguised himself as a pest control worker, boldly went down to the basement, and waited for the opportune moment. Meanwhile, Jia Deng hacked into the network system to conceal her location and disable all the hotel's security cameras. However, the most difficult step in the plan was how to obtain information from Kung Raja's mobile phone. The whole group fell into deep thought because they were all former students of Jok Mok. Kung Raja would surely recognize them immediately. Approaching her was almost impossible. At this point, music, Muhang stood up and calmly said, "You can try. You proactively contact and arrange a meeting with Kung." After having someone conduct a preliminary investigation and learning that he was Doom's lawyer, she was extremely curious to know the purpose of the meeting and agreed. Muang suggested going directly to her office for a discussion. Before leaving, Jia Deng gave him a specialized data stealing device. Simply placing it near the target's phone for 3 minutes would allow it to copy all the information. At the meeting, Muang deliberately asked shocking questions to get Aun Lak to believe that her husband had truly questioned her. This question was intended to buy time, forcing Kyung to think and answer, creating an opportunity for the device to activate. While she was rambling on to cover up the truth, Mu Yang secretly completed the theft. Data. After the successful operation, Du wanted to return the gun, which was also important evidence, to Muir, but he resolutely refused. He said it was unnecessary to sacrifice the rest of his life for a group of evil people. However, Du still secretly found where he hid the gun in the bathroom and took it away. But what the group didn't expect was that Johan, the shrewd supervisor, had begun to take notice of their mysterious activities. He bluntly questioned them. 4 of you, the girls and lawyer Muhanga, what exactly is your relationship? What are you plotting?" Not receiving a satisfactory answer, Johan decided to follow them like a shadow for a whole week. To prevent Johan from ruining his upcoming insurance warehouse break-in plan, Muang arranged to meet him at the lawyer's office. There, Muang revealed the painful truth that Umum's group were once students who were coerced and incited by Jok Mok to commit various illegal acts. Shocked by the true face of this organization, Johan returns home and asks his mother about the past. It turns out that she was the one who participated in the selection process of talented children for JC Mock years ago, indirectly sending them to hell. Meanwhile, Du begins to officially implement his plan. Mu Yang expressed his desire to participate directly, but she insisted that he return home immediately, saying that there was a secret waiting for him to discover. At the hotel, Jia Rong closely monitored via camera and reported that Kang Jia and her assistant had entered the elevator to go down to basement level 5, where the warehouse was located. Below, Jingo immediately cut the signal wire in the warehouse. After scanning fingerprints and phone codes, Kang came out alone and entered the lock. The system would sound an alarm when she stood in front of her safe. Normally, the system would send a verification code via phone, but because the signal was cut off, her phone didn't receive anything to buy time for her accomplices. Jia Deng sent a fake code to her phone as soon as she pressed it. The phone screen emitted a terrible, piercing sound, causing her to panic and drop the phone to the ground. She picked up her phone to check it, but the strange sound rang out again. This forced her to throw the phone away and run outside in fear. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Jia Deng signaled Naka Ko to sneak into the insurance vault through the ventilation shaft. At the same time, Jingo also broke into the electrical room. When Kyung tried to call the reception but failed and decided to return to the elevator to go to the lobby, Jingo immediately cut off the elevator's power, trapping her and her assistant suspended between floors. Inside the vault, Naka Ko easily accessed the insurance cabinet using the code that Jia Deng had just stolen. However, when the cupboard door opened, what caught his eye was not only the diary but also stacks of glittering gold coins. Greed surged within him, and Naha immediately turned into a traitor when Du Umum ordered him to take the diary and leave. He brazenly replied over the radio, "I'm not playing with you girls anymore. If you want it, take it yourself." He didn't want to continue being bossed around by Duum and feared that one day she would use the gun engraved with his name to kill someone and frame him. Duum was furious at this betrayal. Without saying a word, she rushed straight into the ventilation shaft to get the notebook herself. At this moment, another incident occurred. Jay, the young lover of the Kung family, unexpectedly appeared at the hotel. He caught Jingo coming out of the electrical room and brutally attacked him. He beat Jingo to a pulp and then locked him in a closet. Then Day switched the power back on. Inside the safe, pointed a gun at Naka's head, forcing him to hand over the diary. He stubbornly thought she was just threatening him. Until Duum coldly fired a warning shot, fearing for his life. Naka trembled as he handed over the notebook. But before they could escape, Kung and his bodyguards rushed in to hold them captive. Naha cowardly pointed out the location of her accomplice's car outside the hotel. In this life-or-death situation, Jia Deng and the support group outside sensed the danger and sent someone in to save Jingo, who was dying. Kung's bodyguards tried to call the police to arrest Du Umum, but she burst into laughter. She threatened that if the police got involved, the chairman of the corporation would find out that she had allowed strangers to infiltrate the secret chamber containing vital secrets. Then the existence of the diary she had been hiding for so long would be revealed, and the price she would pay would be her life. Kyung turned pale and immediately ordered them to stop reporting to the police to cover up the evidence and intimidate him. Kyung took Du to the very place where her parents had been murdered years ago. There, she mocked and insulted her, saying she was unworthy of being a leader, that if she couldn't even handle a small matter, she should never expect revenge in this lifetime. At the height of her cruelty, she set fire to the diary right in front of Du. Watching the only ticket to revenge turn to dust, Du, the always strong and unyielding girl, cried for the first time in despair. As for Mu Yan, when he got home, he found the USB that Du had left behind instead of the gun. The contents inside were like a bolt of lightning, revealing the secret of his family's tragedy. 12 years ago, his parents' workshop was sabotaged by criminals, leading to bankruptcy. His father was burdened with huge debts and began to question himself. His mother, heartbroken, left without a trace, leaving him an orphan. And the one who indirectly caused that tragedy, ironically, was Jia Deng, the very people he was wholeheartedly helping. Mu Wai painfully sought out Jia Deng to confront her. Jia Deng admitted everything and confessed that they had always taken advantage of his kindness. She advised him not to contact them anymore. But just when the atmosphere was at its most tense, a blinding light from a car's headlights shone on them. The person who got out of the car was Muang. He helped who was injured, out and gently said, "I'm sorry, I'm late, let's go home together." Muang took him home and carefully bandaged her wounds. Didn't understand why he saved her family's enemy. Mu Yang explained that he understood she was just a child being exploited and manipulated by others. She herself was also a victim of job mock. Although forgiven, she still couldn't bear the guilt when faced with Muang's compassion. The next day, she quietly left to see Johan to ask for a month's leave and then disappeared. This news caused the group to fall apart. Naka and Jingo were hospitalized, and Jia Deng packed her bags intending to leave the city. However, Muang didn't give up. He continued to enlist the help of reporter Yankee and police officer Ju to investigate. They discovered that Job Mock had actually changed his name many times to conceal his whereabouts. 8 years ago, it was the Darius Corporation. 5 years ago, it changed to Narvis. The current company is managed by the Kung family. All of it is a front for multi-level marketing activities under the direction of a mysterious chairman. The chairman of Darius, Kanggu, was once arrested but has now been released on bail and has been transferred to Narvis by the chairman to replace Kang. Kangsu's return caused internal strife within Narvis. Kyung was unwilling to relinquish her position but was forced to obey orders. She planted a close secretary to monitor Kanggu, but he brutally beat the secretary to death to humiliate her. Naha, who was planning to seek refuge with Kang in Narvis, was also present. Witnessing the scene, she realized that she was just a snail unable to carry her own shell. In this critical moment, Mu Yang called Du, earnestly begging her to return because the Alliance for Revenge couldn't do without her. The sincere plea and the will to eradicate evil awakened Du. She went to Jia Deng, who was working part-time at the restaurant, and admitted her past selfishness. She persuaded her old friend to come back. After visiting Jingo in the hospital, Duum went to see Mu and officially announced his return. This time, Mu set a condition that he would lead the revenge plan. The first task he assigned Umum was to recover the entire contents of the Red Diary using his extraordinary memory. It turns out that 10 years before planning to escape, Che Hong made her memorize that notebook. Now, those memories will become the sharpest weapon against J.M. Mock. Reporter Yankee finds clues about a hidden website telling the story of a young girl named Ho Dung, a victim of the multi-level marketing company Narvis. Ho Dung's story is a painful warning to young people looking for part-time jobs. Ho Dung applied for a sales position at a cosmetics company, which was a front for Narvis. Here, the marketing director whispered promises into her ear on Mei Kai that she needed to work hard. A salary of 600 million was not a dream. She could buy a car in a month and a mansion in half a year. 3 years later, she would become the ideal daughter-in-law that every mother longed for. But after taking office, Ho Dung realized the harsh truth. The company's cosmetics was selling terribly because of the exorbitant prices. A tube of facial cleanser cost only 100,000 VND to import but was being sold for 3 million VND to trick employees into joining, with the director inventing a huge commission of up to 60%. He calculated that if the total revenue reached 3 billion, I would have 2 billion in commission flowing into my pocket, plus a fixed salary of 15 million, so the total income would be over 2 billion. However, the trap lies in the KPI. Each employee must achieve a sales target of 300 million per month. To achieve this impossible number, employees are forced to use their own money to buy goods. The company promises to return the money for the goods and commission when the KPI is met. If the employee doesn't have the money, the company is willing to lend it to them at a preferential interest rate of 35% per year. Of course, employees can also invest their own capital and receive bonuses when they meet KPIs. And so, after 3 months, the honest girl Ho Dung couldn't sell a single bottle of facial cleanser. Her house was full of unsold inventory, and she was burdened with a debt of 1 billion dong in principal, not including compound interest. Ho Dung, in despair, went to see the manager to return the goods to settle the debt and asked to resign. But the cold-hearted manager replied that he couldn't do that. The goods were bought by her, the debt was borrowed by her, and she could quit if she wanted. Cornered and forced to write a suicide note, Ho Dung chose death as her escape. Ho Dung's tragic story shows that Narvis is a cancerous growth that needs to be eradicated completely. Mu Hang believes they operate on a model of establishing a company, digging a fire, dissolving it to erase traces, and then renaming it a new company to continue scamming people. Narvis has been established for 5 years now. This is the time they are preparing to dissolve after having enough fests. The whole group had to act quickly to find evidence of the crime and the true identity of the chairman before they could replace him. The opportunity arose when Kang Shu was recruiting for a senior management position. Mu Yang thought of the most suitable person, Mr. T. Han, the father of the victim Ho Dung, after the death of his daughter and the death of his wife due to a serious illness. After that, Mr. Jorn lived in despair and alcohol. He had sued Narvis many times but to no avail because J.C. Mock's power was too great. The appearance of Doom's group ignited in him a flame of hope for revenge. He was brought back to the base. Jia Deng fabricated a perfect resume for him, and Doom trained him in the skills to become a professional multi-level marketing agent. Finally, he passed the interview and infiltrated the enemy stronghold. Besides, Do also has another friend, Jae, Kyung's boyfriend. Jay promises to help find the pistol, in exchange for Do's cooperation to protect Kyung from Kanggu's purge. Although Muang doesn't trust Jay, they temporarily join forces. In another development, Nak Ko, wanting to find a way to survive, betrayed information to Kay. He revealed that had once broken into the insurance warehouse to steal a diary containing information about the chairman. Kanggu was overjoyed upon hearing this. San Nakaha tried to install a hidden camera in Kung's office to catch her red-handed. Meanwhile, Mr. Tun used Jia Dung's eavesdropping device to gather information about Narvis's final scam, manipulating the stock market. Tsangsu planned to use the enormous capital of 500 trillion raised from investors using fake data to buy up a stock code, inflate its price, and then sell it off to profit. The biggest target he aimed for was Kang Yun, a wealthy heiress. The group's mission now is to steal that fake fundraising plan. Jia Dung gave Mr. Jorn the USB drives containing malware, instructing him to deliberately drop them so that Narvis employees would pick them up and plug them into a computer. However, this plan was discovered by the cunning Naka. He feared that if Mr. Jorn was exposed, he, as the person who introduced him, would also be implicated. Naka threatened him, now using the alias Joe Taylor, to stop his undercover work. To ensure Jorn's safety, Muang was forced to withdraw him from Narvis. Knowing that Naka had ruined the plan, Duam decided to personally meet him to settle the score. Before leaving, she asked Muhang to inquire with Jay about the security team's shift schedule at Narvis, preparing for a direct confrontation before the plan was ruined due to Nakaha's carelessness. Because unexpectedly changed tactics, this time her attitude was no longer as tough and cold as usual, but instead shifted to an emotional approach. She gently told Nakako that Jia Dung and Jingo both missed him very much, and that when she fired the gun in the insurance warehouse, it was only to scare him and she had no intention of actually helping him. She assured him that the whole team was always ready to welcome him back anytime. Those sincere words moved Nakako. To atone for her mistake, Duam assigned Nakaha an important task, taking advantage of the security team's shift change and increased personnel. He was to sneak into Kung's office to install a hidden camera. Before leaving, she specifically instructed Nakaha to find out the time and place where Kangshu would meet the wealthy young lady Kang Yun. Nakaha quickly completed the camera installation successfully. Then he approached Kang, using the excuse of needing to check the security camera control software to borrow his phone. In just a few short minutes, Nakko secretly read the message and determined that in 3 days, Kangshu would meet Kang Yun at a private party she was hosting. The purpose of the meeting was for him to present his business plan to entice her to invest. Naka immediately sent this information to Jia Dun. Mwenga and the group's mission now was to sneak into that party, try to sabotage the trust between Kang Suu and Kang Yun, preventing investment money from flowing into Narva's bottomless coffers. However, this party is extremely luxurious and discreet. To enter, you need an invitation. Jia Dun checks the guest list and discovers a familiar name. Music. Following the mother of supervisor Johan, Muang immediately goes to see Johan and convinces him to ask his mother for help in getting an invitation. 3 days later, Muhanga and Umam, posing as a high society couple, entered the lavish party. Their goal was to sabotage the 500 trillion won deal between the youngest heir to the Korean conglomerate and the fake multi-level marketing tycoon. Jia Dung was outside, closely monitoring every move at the party through a surveillance camera system. When the main character Kangshu, Jingo, used the alias J for this mission, and Johan worked together to create a comical situation. They intentionally spilled wine on him, aiming to force Kangshu to leave to change clothes, creating a time gap for the action group. But unexpectedly, Kangshu recognized Johan. It turns out that when Johan was a child, his mother took him to visit Job Mok, so Kangshu still remembers his face. The situation became awkward and dangerous. Fortunately, Mrs. Seogar appeared in time. Music. Using her prestige to rescue her son and dispel the other party's suspicions. At this moment, the hostess of the party, Miss Kang Yun, resplendent, stepped out. Jingo, with his handsome appearance, intended to use his charm to approach her, but the plan immediately fell apart. Kang Yun was not only talented and beautiful but also a lesbian. She had absolutely no interest in men. She glided through the crowd and went straight to Do, who was radiating an aloof and noble aura. Kang Yun unexpectedly grabbed Do's hand and hastily apologized for mistaking her for someone else. But her infatuated gaze betrayed everything. She had been captivated by Duam from the first glance. Seizing this opportunity, Duam cleverly fabricated a story that he also had a promising business project and was hoping to receive investment from Kang Yun. Meanwhile, Kang Suu went into the restroom to call his assistant to bring him a new suit. Mu Yan followed him inside. He frankly stated that his project would certainly not satisfy a picky person like Kang Kengyun and suggested that he consider cooperating with him. When Kang Kangshu asked for his identity, Mu Yang presented a fake business card claiming to be the director of a reputable investment company. Outside, Jia Deng saw through the camera that Kangsu had finished changing and was preparing to return to the banquet hall. Music. Fearing Mu Yang would be exposed, she quickly informed him to take Duam away to another place to temporarily hide. Kanggu went to Kang Yun. Just as he was about to bring up the investment topic, Kang unexpectedly appeared as an uninvited guest. It turned out she had also secretly prepared a plan to oust Kangshu and seize Kang Yun's capital. Faced with two tempting offers, Kang Kengyun decided to postpone and consider it for 2 more days. While Kang was away from the office, Jigo, with Jay's assistance, led a group to break in to find the incriminating gun. They didn't find the gun, but ironically, they discovered the hidden camera that Naka had installed on the ceiling. Thus, the reason why Kanggu was sabotaged by Kyung was explained. Kanggu was furious and immediately ordered Naka to be arrested for interrogation. Naka was brutally beaten by Own, but still gritted his teeth and refused to reveal that he had aided Duum's group. In reality, it was Du who leaked the information to Kyung, aiming to incite conflict between the two factions, but Naka Ko was the one who suffered. In a critical moment, Naka secretly pressed the emergency button on the watch. Jia Deng received the distress signal. She heard Kangshu shouting threats, "If I don't get the money from Kun today, both you and that woman Kung will die." Panicked, Jia Deng called Du, who was currently on a romantic date with Kang Kangyun. A few glasses of wine completely captivated the wealthy young lady, making her utterly smitten by Dao's irresistible charm. To save Nakako's life, Dao was forced to make a painful decision. Initially, she advised Kang Yun absolutely not to invest in Kangshu's scheme, and Kun nodded in agreement, following the beauty's advice. But upon hearing that Nakako was about to be captured, had to break his promise and change his mind, telling Kang Yun to invest in him out of blind love. Kang Yun immediately sent a notification agreeing to invest. Upon receiving the news that the money had arrived, Kangsu was overjoyed, immediately cancelled the cooperation agreement with Muang, and lowered his guard. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Johan led his support team to rescue Nakako from the Devil's Lair. After receiving 4,500 billion in investment funds, Kanggu poured everything into acquiring target stocks. The stock prices soared as expected. Overjoyed, he convened a large shareholders meeting to prepare for raising more capital, dreaming of becoming the king of currency. But just when he was at his most triumphant, the punishment struck. While Nakako was being held captive in Kangsu's office, he quickly plugged the USB containing Jia Deng's malware into his computer. All the data about the financial falsification plan was stolen, and a destructive virus was activated. Right in the middle of the formal meeting, the large screen suddenly displayed all the evidence of Narvis manipulating the market and burning investors. Furthermore, a recording of a conversation between him and Muang admitting to dirty money also played throughout the room. With the truth exposed, the stock market reacted immediately, with Narvis's shares plummeting. Kanggu frantically claimed that the Kung family was the mastermind behind the sabotage. He ran up to the rooftop to find her to settle the score, intending to kill her to spite her, but immediately afterwards, a body fell from above to the ground. The deceased was not Kyung Jia but Kang Shu. Kyung Jia's loyal subordinates arrived in time and pushed him into the abyss. The villain finally paid for his crime, but one of his subordinates took the blame for Kyung Jia. After the incident, the computers at Jia Deng's secret base were unexpectedly hacked. All the evidence of Narvis crimes that they had collected was wiped clean. The whole group was forced to move to a new location for safety. Naka, after recovering, also returned to the team. He revealed important information to Jingam. Kyungra most likely copied the president's identity information onto a tiny memory card and hid it in her inseparable lighter. Jingo instructed Nakaha to keep this secret from Doom for now, and asked him to make a fake lighter that was identical to Kyungra's. The Narvis stock manipulation scandal exploded in the media. Mu Wai seized the opportunity, mobilizing the entire group to search for the victims of Narvis's sabotage, especially the employees currently working there. He planned to act as their lawyer to file a class action lawsuit. Once Narvis collapses, Chairman JM will surely have to reveal himself to clean up the mess. That will be the moment they catch the last remaining culprit. The group discovered a cruel trick by Narvis. They set up a fictitious finance company, luring employees into borrowing money at low interest rates to stockpile goods and boost sales. Acted as the person recording the victims' cases, while Muhang provided free legal advice. Soon, they had gathered a large force of victims ready to come forward and denounce them. During this process, Muhang encounters a special customer, Mrs. Zhong, who is his biological mother. The two, separated for 20 years, are reunited under ironic circumstances. Mrs. Park bursts into tears, pouring out all her longing and resentment from all these years in front of her grown-up son. In another development, Jingo brings the fake lighter that Nakaha made to him. He pleads for help in getting Kung's real lighter. When Jay questioned the reason, Jigo confessed that he did it to make up for bringing up the past at JM. Jay and Jay were once a beautiful couple, but later Jay betrayed her to sleep with Kyung to find his place. Because of guilt, Jay agreed to help. 2 days later, Jay painstakingly exchanged the lighter and found the memory card hidden inside. He called Jingo to come and pick it up and also instructed him to give the gun he had found earlier to Do. But Jingo was only interested in the memory card at that moment. He hurriedly copied the data and phone and immediately sent it to Jia Dung, ignoring his father's instructions. At the same time, Kyung Jia was on his way to the airport to escape abroad. She discovered that her lighter had been stolen, so she frantically ordered the driver to turn the car around and go find the chain to reclaim her sacred object. Jingo, after opening the data on the memory card, was shocked to death when she saw the true identity of the chairman. The mastermind behind all the crime bosses of the Jokmok criminal organization is none other than Day, the music brother, the friend the whole group has always trusted. Before they could recover, a gunshot rang out, and Jingo collapsed into a puddle. The shooter was Jay, or the chairman. Before losing consciousness, Jingo used his last ounce of strength to send a message revealing Jia's identity to Jia. When Jia arrived, he witnessed the horrific scene. She questioned, "I knew you were the chairman 10 years ago. Why didn't I tell you?" "Because I loved you. Having you was enough." D coldly looked at her, then ordered her to go to a labor export intermediary company to wait for orders, while he calmly walked away. Jia Dung received Jingo's location and suicide note and was stunned. The whole group rushed to the scene but only found a messy puddle and Jingo's watch lying in the trash. At the same time, Du received a strange message with the address of a mysterious room. She went there and found a strange room. 2 televisions were on, and on the bookshelf was an encyclopedia that she had memorized since childhood. On the wall was a note, page 34, line 11, paragraph 4, which had looked up in a book following the instructions. The letters spelled out a familiar name, G. At that moment, world seemed to collapse. Chairman JM, the enemy she had spent her whole life hunting, turned out to have always been right beside her. Under the guise of an ex-boyfriend, an ally, in the corner of the room, she found a man tied up and gagged, crying for help. Looking at the tattoo on his neck, Duam recognized him as the third person who had been present at the scene of her parents' murder years ago. At the lawyer's office, Muang's adoptive father, Kyung Ho, rushed to find him. He revealed a shocking secret. Muang's biological father was actually still alive. He has always secretly watched his life from afar. Mr. Kang had intended to arrange for the father and son to reunite, but 2 days ago the biological father suddenly disappeared mysteriously. While the group was frantically searching for the chairman, his adoptive father, Kyung Ho, revealed a shocking truth to Muang, like a bolt of lightning from a clear sky. The money Mu Yang had been using for his studies and to pass his law exam was actually secretly provided by his biological father. But even more devastating was the source of that money. A week earlier, in a fit of extreme remorse, his biological father had confessed that the money was payment he received for killing people on order from John Mok, and the victims of that assassination, ironically, were Du's parents. Hearing the shocking news, Muang completely collapsed. He slumped to the floor, his world crumbling before his eyes. Duam turned over the old family photo and was horrified to see the name of the perpetrator, Jace, which was also Muang's biological father. 10 years ago, Mr. Han's company was ruined by Job Mok. When he was about to question himself to find a way out, Job Mok's people appeared and made a wicked offer. A large sum of money in exchange for the lives of Mr. and Mrs. Lai, Du's parents, and Duong. Mr. Han Trungzich and Kiho became pawns in Job Mok's hands. Specifically, Jay, the chairman, committed that heinous crime. Knowing the truth that the biological father of the person he trusted most was the one who harmed his parents, Doom's heart felt like it was pierced by 1,000 arrows. At that moment, a phone call came in, the voice cruelly sarcastic. "Are you satisfied with this surprise gift?" Doom screamed in pain. "What do you want?" After hanging up, Jay activated a remote mechanism that caused Mr. Jock to be slowly suspended from the ceiling. In that life-or-death moment, Duam suppressed his own pain and risked his life to cut the ropes to save his family's enemy. Finally, Mr. Han chose to go to the police station to confess and atone for his mistake of going alone to an abandoned hospital to meet Jay to save Jingo. There, he constantly threatened her, and before leaving, He left her a gun and the address where Kung was hiding. He ordered her to go help Kung to cover up the evidence. Otherwise, he would kill all three of them, Jingo, Gung, and Nakaha. After Jay left, Nakaha's group arrived in time to take Jingo to the hospital. Fortunately, he was out of danger. Do-ung, holding a gun in his hand, decided to go find Kung alone to put an end to everything. She called Jia-dung and Naka to carefully protect Jingo, then hung up and threw away the phone to cut off contact and prevent Mu Yang from participating in this bloody revenge plan. Du-um went to the labor export brokerage company where Kyung Jia was hiding. She coldly announced that Jay had sent her to kill her. Kyung's family was still defiant, declaring that if she died, they shouldn't expect to live in peace either. After dealing with Ki, Du went to the hospital to visit Ji. Mu Yang also rushed over. Du-um pulled him out into the hallway and asked a question full of hidden meaning. "You once said you would protect her, no matter what crime she committed, right?" Mu Wai nodded firmly and confidently. As soon as music finished speaking, the police swooped in and surrounded her before she could be handcuffed. Du-um pulled Mu Wai closer and gave him a passionate but also sorrowful kiss. She was arrested on charges of attempted murder of Kian. The prosecutor in charge of this case was Goat Hiao, who had previously helped them investigate Narvis. However, due to the serious nature of the case and the public attention, he was forced to handle it fairly and strictly. The police found Du's phone at the scene. The browsing history showed searches for anesthetics, and Hai's autopsy results showed that Kung was drugged and strangled to death. Security cameras also recorded Du-um entering the scene with a gun. All the evidence is against her. Faced with the interrogation video, Du-am chooses to remain silent. If she cannot prove her innocence within 48 hours, a formal arrest warrant will be executed. Mu Yang desperately seeks out to Hugh, asserting that he is the real mastermind and that Kung's death was a trap to frame Du-am. But he needs proof. Suddenly, he remembered the kiss when he was captured. Du had secretly put a key in his jacket pocket. He used the key to open his personal locker. Inside was the gun she had brought with her when she went to look for Kung. Strangely, the gun was still loaded and unfired. Meanwhile, Jay had bought plane tickets and was preparing to escape abroad in a week. He ordered his secretary Jun to deal with the remaining remnants, Jingo Nakaha and Gung. Mu Yang appeared just in time, preventing Jia-dung from answering Jay's phone call because he sensed that Jay was about to commit a brutal act. He asked Dr. J.E. in to transfer Zingo to a friend's hospital for security, and at the same time sent Johan to the car repair shop to protect Nakaha. As expected, Johan arrived just in time to rescue Naka Ko from Secretary Jun's assassins. Muang devised a daring plan. He advised Du to confess, but to also include Naha and Jia-dung as accomplices. The goal was to get the prosecutor's office to summon them for questioning, thereby placing them in a safe area under legal protection. Then, he borrowed reporter Yankee's access card to the prosecutor's office. The next day, when Naka and Gung arrived at the prosecutor's office, Jia-dung cleverly swapped the access cards. Usually, she would take Yankee's special card that was hidden under the vending machine. Using the excuse of going to the restroom, she used a special card to sneak into the server room, hack the system, and send a fake notification to Prosecutor Ryu that Umum's escort vehicle had arrived in the basement. When Prosecutor Ryu took Umum down to the basement, she revealed the whole truth. That day, she didn't help Kyung find out that he had been betrayed. Kyung Jia had revealed the final trump card to Umum. A safe at the hotel contained all the evidence of JM and Nava's crimes. She gave Umum her business card and phone number to go get evidence on the condition that Umum not hand it over immediately but wait until he personally appeared so she could see his true face. But as soon as Duam left, Jay arrived. He took advantage of Kung's remaining affection, tricked her into drinking a sleeping drug, and then cruelly strangled her to death with his necktie. Then he left Duam's phone at the scene to stage a scene. After listening, Prosecutor Ryu asked Duam to hand over the evidence, but she refused because she didn't believe the law could punish him. She wanted to end his life herself. At this moment, the prosecutor's office building lost power because Nakaha had cut the circuit breaker, taking advantage of the darkness. Used the handcuff key that Mu Wai had secretly given her earlier to free herself. She took the access card that Jia-dung had left behind, confidently walked out of the main door, went to the supermarket locker to get the revenge kit that Mu Yang had prepared, including a phone with GPS tracking. Duam texted Jay to meet at the dock, saying she had evidence of his crimes. Jay was skeptical but still went. Muang silently followed behind with a gun to protect her. At the dock, as soon as Du got out of the car, she activated the GPS and sent it to Jia-dung. At this time, Jia-dung had confessed everything to Prosecutor Ryu and handed over all the documents obtained from Kongya's iron cage. The police discovered Job had laundered money through 5 foreign accounts. Everything leads to a secret account with an extremely secure terminal. Jia Dung set it up so that as soon as this device is turned on, the system will sound an alarm and pinpoint the exact location of the day. This is the trap that Rang set. She was threatened with having evidence released if he didn't immediately transfer 100 billion in funds for her to escape abroad. Believing that Du was also a wanted man and desperate, Jay fell for the trap. He turned on the terminal to transfer the money. Immediately, an alarm sounded at the police headquarters. Jay's location was completely exposed. Seeing that Jay had taken the bait, Du couldn't help but smile triumphantly. Realizing he was in trouble, Jay frantically rushed in, intending to kill her. A gunshot rang out. Mu Yang fired from behind, shooting Jay in the shoulder to stop him. The police arrived and arrested Jay along with the evidence. Mu Wai was not prosecuted for criminal responsibility because it was legitimate self-defense. However, the law is the law. Duam was charged with fleeing, and Jia Dung and Naka with complicity and illegal intrusion into the system, so they still had to appear in court. Muang once again acted as their defense lawyer. At the trial, Muang delivered a moving speech. He exposed Job Mok's crimes of brainwashing and turning innocent children into tools for crime from a young age. He argued that Du's actions, although illegal, ultimately aimed to apprehend a dangerous crime boss. It was an act of justice that the law had overlooked. They were both the perpetrators and the most pitiful victims of a rotten education system. His heartfelt words moved the judge and jury, along with public support and the defendant's sincere attitude. The court sentenced Jia Dung to 1 year and 6 months in prison, Naka Ko to 1 year and 9 months, and the last one to receive a life sentence without parole. 1 year later, Naka Ko and Jia Dung were released from prison. During the time Du was serving her sentence, Mua made efforts to help her win 1 billion in wrongful imprisonment compensation from the state. Thanks to good behavior and being released 3 months early, Zingo also fully recovered. Duam used the compensation money to rent a large house and welcomed everyone to live together as a real family. The orphan children who were separated by Johan have now found their own homes. Johan has also bravely confessed his love and received a happy nod of approval from Dr. Jin, bringing to an end a long journey filled with cunning schemes and deep emotional wounds. Finally, justice, though belated and having to travel through dark paths, has found its light. The children whose childhoods were stolen by the organization and turned into mindless instruments of crime have now found the warmth of family love under one roof.